Hey, Matt.
Oh, hey, Dan. Hey, hello, everyone. Welcome to Beeping Edge Tech Reviews. Together,
We're better.
we're better.
All right. I hope I'm better.
Yeah,
I'm coming off the tail end of a really rotten cold, and I started a new job this week too.
yeah,
And my cold was going gangbusters the day I started. Yay!
yeah. I should have heard him a couple days ago.
I was giving Barry White a run for his. Oh man, my voice was way down here. So I'm thinking, I don't know, it was pretty bad, and a lot worse than that.
yeah.
Matt can testify.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to get into how to use Ubuntu Linux. All right. So in episode one, we installed Ubuntu Linux on an older laptop, actually a couple older laptops, but for the purpose of that, we installed Ubuntu Linux on an older PC with lower end specs, one that can't go to Windows 11. Matter of fact, I'm not even so sure that PC could have gone to Windows 10. And this is why we're talking about running Ubuntu Linux because it's a fully functional modern desktop operating system. It's got constant continuous updates and support from Ubuntu. And we dived into all that stuff in episode one. So if you really want a breakdown on that, and you really should be starting in episode one if you're following how to install and work with Ubuntu. Um, Apologies for the second half of the episode's audio. Since we were installing the operating system on the machine, we couldn't really record on the machine, so I had to record that part of the episode with my phone. So, apologies to your ears, but the video is good and the audio is enough to get the point across so you know what to do to install it. Now we're going to get into how to actually use the Ubuntu now that it's installed. So we're going to kind of head that direction. And I'll let Matt take over. He's going to switch us from the recording of us two over to actually showing you the computer desktop and then starting to work through because Matt's running the mouse and the keys today. It's his turn.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little infinity screen there
Okay.
and there's the Ubuntu desktop, right? So, freshly installed copy of Ubuntu. The very first thing that we want to do is turn on the Ubuntu firewall so that hackers can't come into your PC from over the internet, right? So, we're going to have to bring up a terminal. So, Matt, why don't you head up to activities on the left and pull up the terminal, and we'll pull up Ubuntu
So this
terminal.
is an easy way to pull up to do a couple things. One, to see what your active applications and stuff are, and two, to find other applications. So in this case, what we want to do is find the terminal. Um, so we're going to just type in terminal. You're not going to have this CRT Core Retro Terminal thing on a fresh install of Ubuntu. This is just something that we've put on this machine. But you will have this right here. You will have the regular terminal. So you click that, and you're going to get something that looks like this. Now, this is going to be a little bit spooky, particularly if you are not used to working with this kind of thing, or if you're not as tech savvy, perhaps as other people are, as you would like to be. But uh, in order to get the firewall up and running for Ubuntu, we do have to do a couple simple things in the terminal here. It's you type like three things, and it does everything else itself, and then you close it, and you're good to go.
And we will put these three commands in the description of the show of the episode so that you can see them there. And for those of you who are more in my age range, all right, so that activity shows all the running programs on the machine. And then also what Matt's saying is that if you're not used to working in command line. Now, if you're kind of like me and you started with computers back in the days of DOS, this isn't going to seem so quite strange, but it'll feel like very retro to you.
Yeah.
Okay, but we don't have to do an awful lot here, but we do need to do enough to make sure the PC is secure. Okay, so I'll let Matt go for it from there. And you want to enable the firewall. You remember that first one?
Oh, I can never remember that first one. So
Uh,
just to be clear, though, we are. I can actually go up and get it, but we are going to enable the firewall on this machine. That's something you'll want to do before you go out onto the internet, doing anything else. Um, so because I cannot always remember exactly what the command is, okay, there we go. The sudo ufw enable. So
yeah, let's teach them about the arrow keys.
yeah, so what I just did there is using command history essentially. So when you type stuff in here, whatever the command may be, and then you run it, it will save a sort of history of the command. So you don't have to keep retyping the same thing over and over and over. Instead, you can use the up and down arrow keys to kind of flip through
The
the command
commands.
line's history through the commands that have been run. And that's what I did there because I can never remember off the top of my head, like, hey, what was that command again?
Yeah, and that's just the up and down arrow keys on your
Yeah.
keyboard. If you close out the terminal, though, a lot of times it won't keep the command history as
Yes.
soon as you start a new fresh instance of the terminal. So
Yeah.
yeah, then you might have to look them up. All right, so let's go ahead and do the enable so they can see the commands.
Yep.
These are already turned on and installed in here, but all right, so what this command is saying here is super user do or sudo. All right. The reason it's making you use that sudo in front of the actual command is because it doesn't give you the highest level administrative access to the machine, even as an administrative user, because that way, if you get a virus when you're using the machine or some kind of malware, the malware doesn't have any higher permissions than you do. So the malware doesn't have the deepest level permissions to the machine and it'll get blocked from doing some of the really, really nasty stuff. Right. So that's why they do that. And then they have you use this super user do when you enter commands in order to do administrative tasks on
Yeah.
the machine.
You're doing
So that's
what's called elevating your privileges essentially.
right. Exactly.
Um, and it allows you. It's you may or may not have done this, but it's similar to if you've ever like on a Windows desktop, if you've ever right-clicked on like a application icon or something, you might have seen among all those other options something that said run as administrator. Uh, you're doing a similar thing here, but we're running this command and the sudo, it elevates privileges and essentially lets you run the command as what's called the root user or super user. Um,
Hmm.
so we have sudo, UFW, which is for
Ubuntu firewall
the
enable.
Ubuntu firewall, and then enable. So very simple, very straightforward. We run it, and then because you are elevating privileges, because you are trying to run this as super user, it is going to ask for the password for that account to make sure that you are who you say you are. Because anyone could just come in and type this, but if they don't have a password, they're not going to be able to do it.
Right. And this would be the same password that you log into the computer with to begin with.
One thing to note is that when you are typing in here, you're not going to see anything getting typed, either in plain text or in those little dots or anything. And this is a feature, not a bug.
That's when you're typing a
When
password.
for a password, yes.
Right. Specifically when you're typing a password, the command line terminal does not do what's called echoing the characters back to you that you're typing in. That's a security feature. It's not showing anything being typed because it is not giving anybody any clues about how long that password is, but with a bunch of dots there that represent characters. So
But rest
somebody
assured,
watching over your shoulder isn't going to know how long the password you're typing is
yes,
unless they're very good at watching the keys with a photographic memory.
yes. But rest assured that when you are typing something, it is registering that because if I go ahead and hit enter, then you can see that well, normally what it would do is you'd get a couple extra things and uh, it would run, but you'll essentially get this message: firewall is active and enabled on system startup, and that's what we wanted to say. we already
Hmm.
did this obviously because we need this computer up and running in order to record, but you're going to get more or less the same thing.
Yeah, this is one of those. I want to do this right away as soon as I start the computer up after Linux is installed kind of things. This is securing your computer,
Yeah,
and this is the very first security measure you should take
yeah,
on a Linux
and
system.
it's something you only have to do with the one time.
Yep, yep. Once it's done, it's done.
Yep. So our next step here, after turning on the firewall, is as an extra security measure, we'll want to install, an antivirus, some sort of anti-malware. There are different options available. We are using, you can actually see that down here, clamtk. So there are going to be two commands that we need to run here. One command is going to be to install the software itself, and then the second command that we're running is going to be to install the graphical user interface for that antivirus software. You can install the first without the second, but then any kind of management of it that you would do would have to be here in the terminal. And particularly if you're not used to using the terminal and you're not a more advanced user of Linux, that's daunting to say the least. So, and frankly, it's just simpler to use a graphical user interface to do it. So we're going to be installing both of those through the terminal here.
Yeah, and we're probably gonna get it's already installed because it is already
It
installed.
is
But we
already
want to show you
installed.
how you would do it.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way that you'll be doing this is you'll be typing out sudo space apt apt space install, and then in our case it's clamav, clam antivirus. So again, super user do. Apt is the apt is what's called a package manager.
Application package
It's,
something.
T something. Yeah, it's the built-in function that manages application packages that get installed in Linux. That's just how the operating system works. Just
And
know that that's what you
let
would
me
need to use
let
for
me
this.
let me say this too now before you get too frustrated here. We're only going to do this in one more command in the terminal, and then we're pretty much going to be done with the terminal, and the antivirus and the firewall and all that stuff will be pretty much set up, and you won't have to come back and play with it. After that, it's going to be pretty much point and click. So
Yeah.
just bear with us for this command and one more, and this is just to make sure that you're secure.
All right. So we will go ahead and run this. So normally it would take longer. You'd get a bunch more lines that look a little bit like this, but we've already installed this, so it's going to look like it.
Yeah.
We get this thing that says basically it's already installed.
Yeah, there's one other thing that you'd get if it wasn't already installed as well, and there's going to be a prompt that says it's going to download this much from the canonical software repository in however many megabytes it's going to take to download and install it,
Hmm.
and it's going to ask you yes or no, and you're just going to type the character Y for yes or N for no.
Yep.
And in this case, Y for yes, I want the antivirus on here.
Yep. And then, so with that, we've installed the antivirus software itself. Now we're going to install the graphical user interface, the GUI. Um, so the simplest way to kind of get back to doing this is to use that command history thing. We hit the up arrow key and we get sudo apt install clamav, and the GUI program for this is actually just clamtk. So we change two letters and we run sudo apt install clamtk. And again, we already have this installed, but it would look very similar to what you would have just seen and done with the same kind of hit yes or no prompt for the AV software itself. So once this is done, you have the very basic kind of core necessities for securing your machine, particularly on the internet. And we can close out of the terminal because at this point, everything else that we need to do is going to just be in the,
Yeah, you can either type exit and hit enter,
yeah,
or you can hit the
yeah.
X in
So
the upper corner.
two ways to do it. You can just hit X up here like you're used to, or if you want to be fancy and feel like feel like Hacker Man or something, you just type exit. and and
There you go.
yeah,
All right.
I'm using terminal to close the terminal.
Well, hey Matt, we showed them how to install the antivirus and install the graphical front end for the antivirus. How about we showed them how to scan a file or scan a folder with the graphical user interface, the
You got it.
GUI?
You got it. So for clamtk and for clam antivirus, the GUI is going to look like this little clam symbol with a like a little reticle on it. It might not be pinned down here or on the side or wherever you've put your taskbar. By default, if
So you can
if
find
it's not, there's a couple ways you can get to it. One, like we showed you before, is to go to activities and type in
clam.
clam, or another way, just so
Eh,
you're aware.
Go back up there on the activities real quick and type in clam again. All right. So to pin it down there to the taskbar, also in Linux it's called the dock, our favorites bar. But it's basically the same as the Windows taskbar. All right. To pin it down there, just right click on it and click add to favorites.
Add to
Because
favorites.
since we have it already added to favorites, it's asking us if we want to remove it. But you would just click on add to favorites and then it would stay down there from that point on.
Yeah.
That's how you pin something down there.
I do also want to point out another way to access, the applications if you want to just look at a list of them is this little dot thing. Here it's in the bottom right, these 9 dots, this square of squares thing. This will pull up a a list of applications essentially. You've got all the default LibreOffice stuff. You got your settings here, software. Um, you It looks like Clam's not showing up in here.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
don't
doesn't.
think it does. I think this is the default software that comes
Could be the
with
default
Ubuntu.
software. Yeah,
Yeah, so
haven't
any
used
like
it.
add-ons you're not going to find, but you'll be able to find it in activities
Yeah,
for
when
sure.
in doubt, come into activities
You,
and
you
search for
also
what you're looking for.
you also might be able to find it in Ubuntu software, that one that's down on the taskbar. So maybe show them that real quick.
Yeah,
Go to Ubuntu software, bring it up, and then click on the installed, and it might be in that list.
let's take a look.
Usually alpha
System applications? No, it's not going to be system applications. No, this looks like the default stuff as well for
might
the
be
most
because
part.
we installed it from APT.
Yeah, it could be.
All right, so activities it is.
Yeah, so like I said, when in doubt, go to activities and search for it, and you should find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that said, let's go ahead and open up clamtk. Now you have the virus scanner window here. You've got configuration stuff, settings, a whitelist, network settings, um, updates you can do here.
Yeah,
But for our purposes, we want to show you a couple simple functions for the antivirus software. First, how to scan a file. You just come here and you scan a file, and then you go find whatever it is you're looking for
maybe
and
that
scan it.
image that we just downloaded.
Yeah, so that's going to be in pictures. We'll scan this picture here.
Yeah, then
So just
just
go ahead and double click that. Take a moment.
yeah, just type wait or
Yeah,
just
just
click
type
wait.
wait or
It
click
takes a
wait.
few. It takes a little bit, so you'll get a couple of these wait errors, and all you gotta do is click wait a few times, and eventually it'll scan it.
Yeah,
It takes a minute. I've had to click it 5, 10 times sometimes, but it will scan it. You can also just leave it sit until it scans it. Oh, guess what? It just did.
it's scanning it. It's
All
just being
right.
finicky about it.
So file scan one. Wait, wait, wait. Don't tell me. All right, go. You can go ahead and click
Yeah, no
close.
threats found. Yeah, it's just a picture. So
Yeah.
a similar thing. If you want to scan a whole folder, and see if there's anything untoward in there, then you would do the same thing. You just double click that.
Actually, you don't even need to double click the
No, you don't
folder.
even need to
Just
double click
select the
it.
folder and click OK.
Yep.
And we may get the same thing. Wait, wait, don't tell me.
We will probably get the same thing, but
Sorry. Wait, wait, don't tell me is thing from National Public Radio. So I didn't get that out of thin air. All right. All right. Wait, well, wait, wait. It's going to tell me anyway. Boom. Done. File scan two. Possible threats zero.
yeah,
And why don't you point that at that with the mouse once you get past the close, just where it says the file scan in the possible.
yeah. So it'll show you however many files you have in that folder, how many it's scanned, and then any possible threats. There's two pictures in there, no threats, so we're good to go.
And we're not going to show you what it does when it finds a threat because hopefully we haven't virused up our computer. That would be bad form for a couple of IT guys.
It would be impressive if we managed to do that on a Linux machine this quickly after first like booting it up and getting everything up and
Yeah,
running.
yeah.
That would be impressive.
People would be laughing and cheesing up the comments on this episode for sure if that happened.
Yeah. Okay. So uh, a couple more things that we want to show you, some of the basics for using your Ubuntu system. You're going to want to know, hey, where can I access settings for the computer? Where can I get to settings? So there's a few different ways you can get to settings in Ubuntu, and I'll just show you real briefly what they are. So as always, you can come into activities, you can type out settings and get to settings here. As I said, when in doubt, go to activities and type what you're looking for. You can also get to settings using that little grid thing, show applications, and it is available here in the default stuff. So you can access settings here as well,
And now he's going to show you the easy way.
or the easy way, or I don't know which way is the easy way. I know up here is another way, this top right
Yep.
bar. You click on that, and you can click on settings, and it'll open it right up. Is there another easier way than that?
No, that was it
That was
right
the easy
there.
way? Okay, just making
That's the
sure.
easy way.
All right,
Yeah.
so you're going to have a window like this. If you're on a desktop computer, you're not going to have some of the same like battery power stuff in the power settings, but that's fine. Anyway, we will stay right here. So we've got our settings window. You can, change between Wi-Fi networks. You can check your applications, uninstall things. You can change notification settings. You can personalize the appearance of
Yeah.
your system however you want to.
Hey, why don't we get in and change the background picture
Yeah,
on the desktop,
so we'll show you how to change the background picture.
which is like the wallpaper.
Yeah, the wallpaper basically for your computer. You can see the currently selected one is up here, and we've
But
got uh, some of the other ones that are provided along with Ubuntu that you can choose from. Or if you want to use your own custom picture, then what you do is you come up here to add picture, and then you find whatever picture it is that you're looking for. Do we have a,
yeah, that dawn flight.
is that,
That's it. Yeah, that's we're
gotcha.
going to be donating this machine when we're done recording our Linux episodes, and we're going to donate to a local Civil Air Patrol squadron. So we're gonna use that as a background for them when we do it.
So you can either double click it or you just click on it and you can hit open. It'll preview it here. And then
And
you just
then
click on it
and there
and
it
you'll see the
is.
little orange border around it. And then if I minimize this real briefly, you can see, hey, we've got a new wallpaper, basically a new background image. So that is how you would change that. And it's the same process if you wanted to add a completely different one or switch back to the original jellyfish. Whatever it is you want to do, this is where you would do it. Okay?
Hmm.
So continuing on through our settings, one of the key things that you'll want to know how to manage is the applications in your computer.
Yeah, that won't be in settings. That'll be in software.
Yeah. Well, there is an applications thing here where you can manage the just I won't go through it, but you can manage individual like notification stuff for individual um, applications. But what we're actually going is not the settings, but the application, uh, or rather the software library for Ubuntu.
Right.
So this little
Yeah.
briefcase with an A, or maybe a little bag. Um, this is the Ubuntu built-in kind of like software store, software library. It's not a store as such because I don't believe any of this in here costs any money. So, or at least if it does, most of it doesn't.
It's pretty much free.
It's
Yeah,
basically free.
most of it's open source freeware. Some of it's not open source, but most of it's free.
Yeah. So this is an easy place to come to find and install new applications. Now you don't have to necessarily, but this is going to be the simplest way of getting whatever app that you need. Um,
Right. And if you know of one that you want to install, you can click that little search icon in the upper left
yep,
corner
this
there.
little magnifying glass,
Hmm.
and you can come in here and type in, oh,
Let's
say,
type astronomy or something, or astrology,
or something.
one of them. See if there's anything.
Yeah, we
And
got a
there you
few.
go.
Uh, I don't know. We'll just pick this first one, and then you would
Yeah.
click on whatever application that you want. It's gonna look a lot like any other software store, basically.
Yeah, it's gonna have a description,
Description, some
reviews.
preview stuff, reviews,
Yeah,
and then you would just click install, and it would install.
right.
Yeah,
And there you go. And then from then on, you can find it in activities or pin it to favorites at the
yep,
bottom, which is how I got that cool retro term. You want to show them that real quick?
yeah, sure. So one of the first apps that Dan installed is what's called Cool Retro Term. And what this does is it's a terminal application, but obviously this looks a little bit different than the terminal you saw before.
It's very retro. The retro's in the title for a reason. It's like an old, what we used to call a dumb terminal from back in the early 1990s.
Yeah.
And those things were basically a display that connected up to some kind of a big computer system so you could administer those old computers. And then you type your sudo UFW enable, and et
Or
cetera.
whatever
Just
whatever
like
the command may be.
it's just it's prettier.
You can just type in whatever command you're doing, and then don't worry what these commands are. But you can do all your terminal stuff from within this just as much as you could from within the default terminal. It's just a kind of cool looking. It's a retro terminal.
That's exactly
It's
it.
exactly what it is what it says on the tin. So this is an example of an application that we've gotten from the software library and installed on this machine, and it's pretty cool looking. Um, so we'll go ahead and close that out. Go back to our software thing. Go back to the Explorer. One last thing that you'll want to also be able to do from in here is to see your installed software, your installed applications. And as you might suspect, you can do that from the installed thing. And you'll get a list of all the stuff that you got here, and then you can uninstall whatever you feel like you need to uninstall just by clicking uninstall.
And heads up, 97 or 98% of this stuff was already came with Ubuntu when
Hmm.
you first install it. There's only a few things that have been added onto the system after the Ubuntu
OBS is
install.
one.
Yeah, that's how we're recording this for you. And then to the right of that, where the installed software is the updates, and that's where you would go to do the updates on your software that's installed.
Yep. And we have a couple updates here that we'll do in a little bit.
Now that Snap Store and Snapd, those two might not want to update because they're a little tough. The Snap Store is what we're working in actually right now, so it doesn't like to update itself from within itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Firefox and GNOME and the Core 20, those will probably update just fine. So if you were to click Update All, it would update pretty much everything but the Snap Store, I think, without much issue. And one of the nice things about Ubuntu and Linux in general is when you do updates like this, it doesn't make you restart the machine right then and there. It's not going to restart it, as not going to run a bunch of install stuff after you go to shut down or the computer to go home for the evening, because it does the install stuff and it lets you decide when to restart the computer if they require a restart. So you shut down and you come back in to turn on the Linux machine when you're going to use it the next day. And guess what? The install work's already done. All you had to do was reboot and that's it. It's not like Windows where it's 30% done when you shut down and then it's got 70% left when you start it back up. Uh-uh. It doesn't do that in Linux. Linux, it does all the install work and then just waits for the reboot and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nice that way.
Right. So
All
that
right.
is the kind of the basics of the software store. Like it looks a lot like any other, if you have like an iPhone, it'll look somewhat like the
Yeah.
Apple Store or the Google Play Store. If you have certain Android phones or stuff like that, it's going to look pretty familiar and it's going to function pretty similarly to a lot of things. So this is a very good option for finding, what you need for whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so if you are thinking about like a particular type of software or something like that, there are an awful lot of free software options available. If you can't find something in here, you might be able to find it in APT. You can do a Google search and see if it's available for Ubuntu Linux, and you might have to do some command line entry, but there's so much in here. I doubt you're going to be worried about that, especially if you're using the PC for basic productivity like office type stuff and surfing the internet. Now, in another episode, probably going to want to go over how to install Chrome.
Hmm.
Not in this episode, but in another one, because that in
Takes.
installing Chrome is a little bit of command line work. But as you can see, we have Chrome installed on this machine. And it is entirely possible to install Chrome, and then the updates it will update with the Ubuntu software updater as well.
It just takes some finagling
Yeah,
to get it to work properly.
yeah. Well,
Well,
it
to get
does. It really just takes a little bit of work to install Chrome, and then after that, the regular update processes in Ubuntu will handle the updates from there. But getting the installation, because Chrome is not free open source software. It's free, but it's not open source. And so it's not by default included in any of the libraries, because Linux being open source software, which means that anybody can work on the code, um, and help develop the code. That's a whole subculture in IT. And since Chrome isn't open source, it's not really in any of the default software or application libraries like you're seeing here in the Snap Store for Ubuntu or an APT. You actually have to get it from Google's online repository via the command line. And we'll go through that in another episode. But it's entirely possible if you're a Chrome user, you can get Chrome on Linux, on Ubuntu Linux, and we'll do that in another episode for you. Now, if you folks were watching this video and you come up with some kind of an application that you're wondering if you can get on here and you have a suggestion for something we should try to figure out how to install, by all means hit us up in the comments and let us know, and we'll see if we can figure out how to install it and record an episode on it down the line, because we're going to start deep diving into some of these applications and how to use them on Ubuntu in episodes going forward. But we wanted to get you enough of the basics here to get you up and running. Okay, so I think at that point we've pretty much covered the scope of this episode, unless you can think of anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I can pull the settings back up again, see if there's anything else I want to touch on, but I think we covered everything that,
Yeah, I
yeah, I
mean,
think we
there's
covered
there's
a lot
like,
of the basics. There's a lot of stuff in here that if you just click around and poke around a little bit, you'll
yeah, I mean,
find a lot of the settings that you need from
yeah,
here.
you've got displays for multiple displays. You can go up, your sound settings are in here, your mouse
You've got your
settings.
power stuff, you got your sound settings for, hey, you know,
Yeah,
I
what
want
do
to
I
change
want?
my like input and output devices for, microphones, and you can see. me talking right now.
Right. Up
But
at the very top is Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, of course.
yep,
You know,
change.
if you wanted to connect to a different one, and or if you wanted to hook up a Bluetooth device, Bluetooth is actually on right now, but um, there's nothing connected.
Yeah, nothing's paired with it.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different uh, options here. You just feel, obviously don't be afraid to poke around a little bit and just kind of see what's in each thing. You're not gonna hurt yourself or the computer or anything by just clicking a little bit and just seeing what's in each menu. Uh, so don't be afraid to explore a little bit. But yeah, looking at it, it does. I don't think there's anything jumping out at me. Uh, yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out of a couple of these things and close out of the software library, and then we're gonna switch on back to the camera view. Yeah, there we go.
Hey everyone, I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
All right, and together we're better.
Together, we're better. We'll, we'll
Right.
get we'll get it on sync at some point, but yeah,
One of these days.
one of
One
these
of these
days.
days. But hey, we did want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. This is a little bit our Thanksgiving episode here coming up, and we know we're leading into the holidays. We'll be looking at doing another episode at some point prior to Christmas. Probably it'll be our last episode for the year, and we're gonna have to bump heads for a little while and take some time. We might chew on editing a little bit on this and see if we want to do some editing and such, and then we'll spend a little time thinking up something good for all you little good computer boys and girls out there for Christmas. All right, but everyone have a wonderful holiday, a happy, safe Thanksgiving.
Well,
Okay.
take care, and we'll see you next time.
All right, and don't forget to like and subscribe.